Heartland Waterfowl presents Behind the Blind Podcast.
Hey there, welcome back. Ronnie Phillips here with another episode of Behind the Blind, brought to you by Double T British Kennels. For more than 20 years, Double T British Kennels have imported dogs directly from Great Britain to build superior bloodlines. Their top-of-the-line dogs are proven in the field in major field trials. Learn more at britlabs.com and tell them that Heartland Waterfowl sent you. Here we are, I guess it's close to the mid of the late August, the end of August, and the guys are on the road. They're leaving tomorrow as we record this on August 21st, headed to North Dakota for the early Canada Goose season. I'm really bummed I can't go because my daughter's birthday is on Sunday. She's turning 12, and it's not like the early days when she was a young child and she couldn't remember whether or not I was at her birthday or not. So this is one of those times where I kind of need to be there and be the family guy. But they're excited to get on the road, and what that means for you is more new content coming your way. So after this trip, there will be a polished, brand new production of Heartland Waterfowl for a brand new season. This is our 13th season of creating waterfowl hunting content, and that YouTube episode will drop within 10 days of us getting back. And so while we're there, we'll also have Behind the Blind podcast from in camp. We'll be doing 2 podcast episodes per trip, so be looking for that. While the guys are up there, we've had a great off season with some podcast episodes with like Logan Williamson from First Light, Nolan May from Carlson's Choke Tubes. We had Buck and Jay from Dirty Duck Coffee. Let's see, we had Terry Denman from Mojo Outdoors, and we have someone who's not a sponsor, but she's quickly become a really good friend of the Behind the Blind podcast. Let me now welcome my new good friend, Maggie Williams. Uh-oh, I hit the wrong one. This one right here, Maggie Williams. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ronnie.
This is really neat. And I'm all over the place. I'm actually pretty good at this podcast stuff, but you wouldn't know it by how I've started this episode. But it's really cool to have you on here. There is so much to talk about when it comes to Maggie Williams, and I almost don't know where to start. But I'm going to start by breaking the ice with this question.
Okay.
Maggie Williams, are you or are you not a redneck woman?
Okay. Oh, Ronnie, that is so funny. Y'all, if you did not see it on his Instagram story, bless his heart, he shared a photo of me like hyping up the podcast episode. It was great, but the song was Redneck Woman by Gretchen Wilson. I don't know if I identify as a redneck woman. I identify as a Southern woman for sure, but I don't know about redneck. I try to stay away from the redneck as much as possible. But
okay, fair enough.
I'm Arkansas, so it's a hard to fight.
When I was trying to find a good song, and I had, because I'm a former radio personality in country music, right? And so when you see the picture, and let's face it, there's not, compared to men, there's not as many women who are embracing the outdoors, at least duck hunting, in the way that you do, right? So when typically somebody sees a woman hunting as hardcore as you do, they think, man, that girl is a redneck woman. Is that fair to say that there's that initial association?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
So, but then I thought, man, should I run this by her first? Is she going to be offended by me using the song? But I'm also wanting to use a song that's going to resonate and identify with the person who's going to see it and maybe create some hype to be like, what is this all about? So that's why I went with it.
Well, I'll say back home in Arkansas, I'm uptown because I have a semi-automatic shotgun. I wear uninsulated waders. I have a 4-stroke on my boat. So that is uptown to me and to my folks. But now to Johnson County friends up here in the KC area, I would be identified as a redneck woman. So it depends on who you ask.
Sure. Okay. Well, now that we know that I will never again tag you as a redneck woman. Okay.
You can tag me as anything. I don't mind.
This is so cool to have you on here. We got to meet at the Heartland premiere. And then we got to come onto your podcast about a month or so ago, Logan and myself. And that turned out to be great. Such a fun conversation. You did a great job with that. And by the way, kudos to you on what you've done with that podcast. I encourage all of our fans and loyal listeners and viewers of this podcast to be sure to go check out the Maggie Williams podcast. It's really good. A lot of great, interesting people that you have on there. And so again, congratulations on what you've done there, not only on the podcast, but just the name that you've built for yourself and the social following that you've gotten over the years. And and you're not even that old. You haven't even been like playing in the space that long, relatively speaking, compared to some old geezers like me. How old are you?
I'm 23.
23. What? You're just a kid.
You said you've been doing this for 13 seasons, and I was like, wow, I was 10 years old when y'all started.
Thanks. Throwing rocks already. I see. Okay. We're going to get into all of that here in just a little bit, but most people already know who Maggie Williams is. But for those who don't, let's kind of like just go back a little bit. Where are you from and how did you get into hunting? Because I know it's not, I was going to say waterfowl hunting, but you're into more than just that. You love to hunt your turkeys. So how did you get into the outdoors and get into hunting? And then when was it that and I'm notorious for this, asking several questions at once, right? So I apologize in advance, but I basically am just trying to navigate you down this path or this journey I want you to take us on, from once you got introduced into hunting and got to old enough to have a phone and understand social media, why you chose to go down the influencer route, or did that just kind of happen by accident? So kind of give us your little bio.
Well, I am 23 years old. As I said, I'm from Northeast Arkansas. If you're familiar with Northeast Arkansas, I'm from Clay County. If you're unfamiliar, Pocahontas-ish, not even
been there.
Big enough in Clay County for people to know. Jonesboro area.
Yeah.
But I grew up there with my dad, my mom, my sister. My dad thankfully did not have a son, so I became his hunting partner whenever I was 10 years old. I begged him to take me duck hunting because I had seen him go all my life. And, I think it took him some time. And first of all, we're in Arkansas public timber. So it took him some time to be like, okay, I want to introduce my daughter to it. I want to introduce my daughter to this. But it takes some maturity in a kid to be put in that environment. So he finally bought me a cheap pair of little neoprene waders, I think from Cabela's. And I was wearing some hand-me-down camouflage. And I just said, all right, Dad, I'm ready. And it was that youth hunt of my 4th grade year. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I was like, all right. I mean, I think we killed one duck that day. It was very anticlimactic.
Yeah.
But to me, it was the coolest thing ever because it was so many new things I was taking in at once. Obviously, I grew up loving to ride the boat with my dad, but we did it in the wintertime, which was so new to me. Having my dog out there was so cool. It was just a combination of a lot of things. I grew up shooting guns with my dad, but getting to actually take one in the woods and hunt with it, it was just a incredible, exciting experience. And so I just told him, I was like, hey, I'm ready to go back whenever you are. And he was like, oh, this is not going to be a phase. Okay. And we were actually this duck camp was built by my dad and my grandpa and all of their friends in like 86, I want to say, maybe 85.
Okay.
Just on a river that connects to our WMA that they grew up hunting. But it had a bunch of members originally. It was called the Piggott Duck Club. And my dad tells the story of like there were no wives, there were no children. Obviously, little boys got to go, but no women were ever at this duck camp. And so as the camp continued to flood, as Arkansas duck hunting got historically worse, he actually bought out all of the partners in the camp, which didn't take much because it's a little junky camp, but he owned the camp. So that way I was able to go and stay there with him and be in an environment with my family only. And it quickly just became more than a hobby. It was something that we planned our lives around. But my mom and sister did not really enjoy hunting, which is fine. My sister's getting into it now as an adult. But they loved being at camp with us. They loved just the camp environment, getting to hang out with the dog, getting to see all of the boats, seeing all the people. Because this little community that our duck camp is in, you would think it's a ghost town in July, but it's a hopping community. Obviously, in the wintertime, it's a duck community. So long story short, as I got older, I started to segue into pageantry. And I had a cousin that competed in pageants. I knew that's something I wanted to do. And so I asked my mom, I was like, I wasn't a toddler in tiaras before anyone even gets to that. I wanted to compete in Miss Arkansas Teen USA. And it took some real twisting of the arm from my mother because she was like, this has to be your thing. It's not going to be my thing. I don't want to push you to do it.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just a super cool opportunity. So I pursued that I guess I was a junior in high school. And by the grace of the good Lord, I won. Just this little rinky-dinky girl from Clay County, Arkansas, I don't think anyone saw it coming, but by the grace of God, I won the pageant, and my director was actually from Overland Park, Kansas, and he owned 6 states. And I mean, he owned Arkansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Illinois, Kansas. I'm missing one. But anyway, he prepared all of these young women for the Miss Teen USA competition. So he sees all kinds of girls each year, but he sits me down the morning after I won. He said, all right, girl, I'm going to prepare you for Miss Teen USA, but you have to commit to a cause or an organization that you want to promote throughout your year. And I was like, oh, that's easy. I want more women to go duck hunting. And he started laughing at me. He was like, you're joking. And I was like, no, this is not a joke. This is really all I care about is duck hunting. So that'd be easy to do. And he was like, well, I'm not going to tell you no, but don't ever expect to do well at Miss Teen USA. And I was like, that's fine. Arkansas was more than I could have ever dreamed of. I was like, I want to represent Arkansas and promote what I love. And I will say the pageant community, I kind of got a little bit of pushback because you have to understand there are girls there who are promoting PETA, literally. So it's just a lot of different girls from a lot of different backgrounds, but I was there to share a little bit of awareness on my background and the way of life that I grew up with. And it was an awesome opportunity. The hunting community actually kind of, I wouldn't say it was super extreme backlash, but I was definitely a little standoffish from the majority of the pageant community. But the hunting community lifted me up. They were, resharing, Miss Teen Arkansas blows a duck call. Like that, people were eating that up online. And I was only on Instagram at the time, but I was like 17 and I went from like 2,000 followers to 10. And back in 2019, that's a lot, especially whenever you're in high school. That's a lot of eyes on you. And so like I was in my mind, like, man, this is awesome. 10,000 followers. And it's funny that a lot has changed since then, but that kind of gave me the platform. And I was a high school senior in 2020. And I was just presented with the opportunity to go to college or take a gap year in 2020. And I just did not know what the future would hold. But I was really unsure of the career path I wanted to take. And I took that year to take a gap year and just go hunting. I told myself there's never going to be a time where the world stops turning like this ever again. I'm going hunting every day. And thankfully, my parents did not kick me out on my rear end. And they let me do that. And that was an experience that I will be so grateful for the rest of my life. But I was making very, very, very little money on social media at that time. Like just enough to eat a peanut butter sandwich on my way to go hunting. Like I was buying my licenses and my gas. And that was it. I was not like a normal 18-year-old girl going shopping, buying purses. Like I was buying shotgun shells and finding a way to go hunt. And so I did. And that's really whenever I gained the majority of my following. I just was posting. I was trying to duck hunt in Arkansas for all 60 days on public land. And obviously, if I got an opportunity to hunt on private, I would love to take anyone up on that. But I was mostly hunting public, sharing that journey, documenting that. I was like Maggie Williams, Road to 60. And I kept posting that. And looking back now, it's so funny. That's been so long ago. But a lot of people still know me from that.
Wow. When you talk about the monetization part of it, I think people still, and even myself, have a hard time understanding how you, like, what's the method of the madness to be monetized on a variety of these social platforms. I mean, and where's the real money to be made? Is it TikTok or is it still Instagram? Because that's where it started. Kind of walk us through, how did you learn to, was it so easy just because that was kind of the thing and at your age, and I'm just an old guy trying to figure it out, but like, what does that look like?
I'll be honest with you. I tell people this all the time. There is really no real money to be made. Like I am considered to be at this point in my career a pretty established influencer in this field, and I'm still not getting rich. Obviously, I hunt more, but it's more expensive to travel the country and hunt. So basically, I'm funding my dream right now, and I've have some influences in my life. They're like, all right, Maggie, we need to start, buckling down. We need to start opening up a savings account. We need to start, putting some money aside. But I was literally just trying to fund my hunting endeavors because I lived in a little old cabin on the river. My dad had boats I can use. So I was paying my truck note and paying hunting licenses. That's literally all I was using my money for. So I am not getting rich at this by any means. But back then, TikTok was my biggest, it still is. was my biggest platform. And because I was just a 17-year-old girl, it was originally Musically, transitioned to TikTok, and I was like, oh, I think I want to be a part of this. And I remember there was a trend. I think it was like a Chris Young song. It was a Chris Young song, and I want to say it said like tuxedo waiters, black tie. You know the song.
Yeah.
People were taking that video and showing themselves in their duck hunting waders. So it was me and another little girlfriend of mine. We were just two little blonde girls out in the timber. And that video went kind of mega viral at that time. Like, obviously, standards of viral have evolved since then.
Sure.
TikTok was not super mainstream. This was obviously pre-COVID. So a lot of people were like, oh, I'm an adult. I'm too big for TikTok. But the video took off. And I think I got 50,000 followers on TikTok immediately. And like back then, 50,000 was huge. Like Charli D'Amelio, I don't even know if you know who that is, but she is like one of the biggest TikTokers. I mean, hundreds of millions. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But like she was sub 1 million at that point. She was the biggest person on the app. So like 50,000 then was huge.
Yeah.
And there used to be little agencies, and I think they've dissolved and they don't even exist anymore. But country music singers and like record labels would reach out to these influencers and like, hey, we'll pay you $50 to post a video with this song.
Oh.
And it was literally like a chump change, like $30, $50. I was making no money. And it's like maybe once in a blue moon. It wasn't like I could do these every day.
Yeah.
But I was doing as many of those as I can. I'd reach out to different little record labels like, hey, if you have any TikTok prompts and you want influencers to do, I can do, 5 of them for really cheap.
Yeah.
And that's how I funded a lot of my hunting trips until I got more sophisticated and eventually started getting some sponsors that have helped me along the way to make this possible. But it was literally like, when I tell you, I was probably 19. I was a college kid in South Louisiana with a good friend of mine. We had a jar of peanut butter and a loaf of bread. And that was our meal. And like a case of great value water. That was our meal for the whole trip. Like we couldn't afford to eat anything else. And obviously I was super blessed. My parents had a college home for me to live in for free, and that was a huge blessing for me and my sister. So I mean, I don't ever want to say like you're going to get rich being an influencer, but to me the experiences, I am rich in experiences, and that's what I want my life to look like.
Sure. You just touched on so much there that just has me wanting to ask so many questions. I'm like, God, which question do I ask next? But I think I want to go with like, so you're talking about getting monetized by the platform, right? Because you're making money there. Then you're making money by the record labels in partnership with you by using their music. So there's another stream, right?
But now go ahead.
But then the next question was, then at some point I would imagine, because you are tied in with other sponsors, or I don't know what you call them, partners in the space that deal with influencers. And so I would imagine that you're generating revenue for them to be associated to their brands. Is that fair? Is that fair?
It is fair. But I was going to say, I was actually getting paid like with sponsors before I was getting paid by the apps. The only app I'm even monetizing on right now is Facebook. Facebook pays I don't even want to say pretty well, because they don't, but they pay more significantly than TikTok Creator Fund. I'm not even in the TikTok Creator Fund because I think it hinders your views and it keeps you from reaching more people.
Really? Okay.
So I'm not involved in that. I can't really speak on that, but there's a certain threshold of followers you have to have in order to monetize. And Facebook has a kind of a low barrier to entry. So I've started, on Facebook, but that is correct. I do now monetize through Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok is just my audience, is what I can, offer to companies that want to align with me and my morals and my content. That's all I can offer them, that audience, but I can't monetize on those platforms.
So when you say you're monetized on Facebook, is it Facebook specifically, or is it just Meta? Because Instagram is a Meta, right? Okay. Just wanted to make sure, because go ahead.
It's Meta, but Instagram's a little bit trickier to do.
Is it? Okay. So the content that you create and distribute on Instagram, are you being monetized on that through Meta?
No.
Really? So it's strictly just Facebook.
But
you got a pretty good following on Facebook. I know you do well on Instagram and TikTok, but I haven't noticed what you have on Facebook.
my Facebook's just passed my Instagram. I think Facebook's really trying to be like the front runner whenever if TikTok gets banned. So they're really encouraging creators to establish themselves on Facebook if they haven't already, because at one point Facebook was irrelevant and has really brought itself back with Reels. So I have done a lot of leaning into the Facebook side of things.
So I guess if you were somebody who wanted to be an influencer who could be monetized with the distribution of their content, Facebook would be a good place to go because of the barrier of entry.
It'd be a good place to start for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
I encourage anyone that wants to become an influencer, if you have a side gig, do not give up your side gig, because you will, unless you got something figured out that I don't think anyone's really getting rich as an influencer.
So that's going to be one of my questions. I want to know, do you have a side gig? If you do, what is it? And then secondly, you're so young when you're doing this. I have so many questions. Gosh, I'm so sorry that I'm going to throw all these at you at once, but like I have a daughter, she's turning 12 on Sunday. I mentioned that earlier. And I am that parent right now who is not really even comfortable with her being on YouTube shorts because she's exposed to all the different crazy content that I may not be aware of while she's scrolling. I'm that parent who's really, because you hear the horror stories about kids being on these social apps and the creepy people that are out there. And so did your parents have an issue with being on these social platforms? I'm guessing because you are an attractive lady who's in the hunting space, there is going to be some bad apples that say some inappropriate things to you. That probably gets back to dad and pisses him off and protective of his daughter. So kind of walk me through that journey.
Well, I'll tell you, because the pageantry journey came before the influencer side of things, we were really taught back in 2018, 2019 that social media was going to be the way of the world. So we really got a head start on branding, on learning how to brand ourselves, on if we wanted to go the influencer route. But as a pageant title holder, as Miss Arkansas Teen USA, you were an influencer for the Miss Universe organization. Your goal was to promote yourself, to promote the organization, and promote your platform. But you wanted to obviously touch other lives and make a difference. But they also want you to recruit more girls to get involved. Mm-hmm. So the more you accomplish throughout that year, just the more that success relays for other organizations, like obviously the Miss Universe organization. So my parents were very and like also in the pageant world, like everyone's very supportive for the most part. Like people are lifting you up, and you are so well connected to so many different brands and people. And I mean, I was 17 with a friend in every single state in the United States. So social media was just an awesome way for all of us to connect, to keep up with each other. So I was kind of, they had a head start. It wasn't like they were just all of a sudden pushed into the world of social media. But I was 17. Like I was almost an adult, but not quite. But I mean, I was still raised by Christian parents. I had an awesome foundation that they have raised me to have. So it wasn't like they were freaking out that people were going to see me online. They knew that they had raised a young lady. They were comfortable with sharing her story with the world. And that was just something I always knew, that if you put yourself out there, people are always going to have something to say. And that was just par for the course. I was prepared for whatever was going to be thrown at me, because it was.
Were you though? I mean, in all reality, at 17, you're as much as, I mean, I can think back when I was 16, 17, 18, I felt like I knew everything and my parents didn't know anything, because you're a teenager, then you still have that, you're still going through that phase. They even say that, your brain isn't even fully developed, at that age. Right. So when you say you were prepared, were you though? I mean, at some point there had to have been something that said, or came up that was like, okay, whoa, wasn't prepared for that.
I will say, like, you think you're prepared until I will say this: God equips his followers. I'm the biggest believer of that. He does not call the qualified. He does not call the qualified. He qualifies the called. So I was just totally. I had a really good attitude about it, but still, it got hard. There were people who I've never met online. And whenever I was younger, people, like, whenever I was 18, 19, 20, even, like, whenever I was in college, I got a lot more grace, I feel like, and it was easier to kind of block out the noise. But as I got bigger online, there's a lot of people that have terrible things to say about me that have never met me. And that was a challenge.
Sure.
I was like, oh my gosh, you don't know me. You don't know my heart.
Yeah.
but at the same time, I feel like the people that know me, that do know my heart, respect me so much for who I am and what I stand for, that they always go to bat for me. If there's ever like a Maggie Williams is the worst, blah, 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 XYZ, there's someone that's already in the comments like, actually, she's great. And let me tell you why. And I think that's awesome that I've been able to build a community that does appreciate and respect what I do. So that's been a huge blessing. But the biggest thing that I was not prepared for, I think it was back in 2022 or 2023, I had a stalker, a real life,
Legit
stalker.
Yeah.
I was scared for my life. And that really changed a lot about the way I live, who I am, the way I see the world. That was really scary. And that definitely was something I was not prepared for or ever thought I would actually have to worry about.
Yeah. What did you do? I mean, did he just go away? I'm assuming it's a guy.
It is a guy. Yep. He was actually from Nebraska. And by the time I also get a huge influx of DMs, unless I get a message from a brand or a big creator, they do not even make it to the top of my inbox because Instagram will kind of sort them for you. So even years ago, I've still never been able to keep up with anyone's messages. Like Clay will tell the story that he messaged me 4 years ago. I never saw it. And that's true. Like it's terrible.
We'll talk about Clay just for those who are listening who don't know who Clay is. We'll get to him in just a minute.
We'll get to Clay, but you're kind of hard to get a hold of whenever you're in this position, and everyone knows that about me anyway. So this guy had been messaging me for years. Like I think his first message to me was like 2021, and I didn't even see his messages every single day until 2023. So there were 2 years of backlogged messages that he's been trying to reach me, but I found it and I was startled. I was like, whoa, that's provocative. Whoa. And he was just accusing me of some crazy, crazy out of this world things. Like you could tell.
Do you care to share what those were or kind of hint at them? Because everybody's curious. They're listening like, well, how provocative was it?
Like
to your comfort level.
I don't even, it's so vulgar that I can't even share. It's so vulgar. Like just like, who is this guy? What's wrong with him? Because he was so detailed and like you could tell a sick person had wrote this. And I was like, okay, there's something wrong. So I start scrolling and my jaw, I remember so vividly, my jaw dropped because I'm like, he's done this every day for years. There's 600 days of messages here. And so I'm like, I have his name. I'm going to call him Jake. That's not his name. I'm going to call him Jake. So I'm like, okay, let me search Jake's name, John Doe, whatever, in my email. And he's there. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I go on Facebook and I go on TikTok and I go to all my platforms and I'm searching in my inbox. He's reached me he's been trying to reach me for years on all these platforms. And I go to his Facebook and immediately I remember like hitting a wall and just breaking down in tears because he said, this is Maggie Williams' parents' address. It was a aerial Google photo. Like I'm trying not to get emotional because it's really scary. A aerial Google photo of my parents' house, the address, and there's a shop building, which is where my dad operates his business out of. He's a dirt contractor. There's a shop building. Don't forget to ransack that. But he's like, go to her parents' house, and get whatever you want. These are terrible people and they deserve it. And I was like, and at that point, I wasn't even living with my parents. I was in a college house. I was like, he's not hurting me. He's hurting people I care about, and that's not okay. And so I kept scrolling, and he was obsessed with a couple of young, conventionally attractive blonde women, like Tommy Lauren. He loved the Fox News girls, but they were all blonde, all blue-eyed young women, like with fairly conservative backgrounds, to say the least. Like I was the only hunting girl, but he had a type for sure. And he would post about these women, but I was like his special interest, and it was insane. But he would post like 1 minute how he was in love with me, but his Facebook was his journal. And so then sometimes he'd post like, I deserve to die, and he was going to kill me. It was unbelievable. But he also is posting about this woman. We're gonna call her Jane Doe, and they had the same last name. And I was like, okay, this is either his wife or someone he's related to. No, it's his mother. This kid was adopted, and that was his adopted mother. So eventually, my mom. This goes on, and we contact Arkansas State Police for like, what can we even do? This guy's obsessed with me. He's telling people to harm my family. He's posting that he wants to kill me. And he also started accusing me of crazy, crazy national disasters. Like there was a school shooting in Nashville, a real tragedy. And by the way, the shooter died on site. Like there was no question as to what happened here. He was on Facebook accusing me of these heinous crimes. Like he accused me of 9/11. I was in the womb at 9/11. Like you could tell that this guy had some real deep-rooted issues. So I'm like, what is even happening here? But eventually Jane Doe, his mother, reached out to my mom. And actually, I'll take a step back. Arkansas State Police was like, there's nothing we can do for you. He's in Nebraska. And until he comes to Arkansas, we can't help you. And I was encouraged by detectives not to get a restraining order against this guy, because that is fuel to the fire for these type of people that are so obsessed. They want it. Like at this point, he did not know he had ever reached me because he had not been blocked. I had not responded to his comments or his messages. So he was blindly putting this out into the world, hoping that I would catch a stray. So his mother, Jane Doe, reaches out to my mom and was like, hey, I want you to know I am XYZ's mom. And
this is after the fact, after you've become familiar with who this person is that's stalking you.
Correct.
Okay.
And he'd post like the volume of posts increased every single day, more focused around me. And people that he knew, like I had an aunt reach out to me, but first the mom reached out to my mom and was like, I want you to know that I think your daughter's in danger. We think my son has developed schizophrenia. He was a totally normal kid until he was probably 25. And he was a great kid. We adopted him and we gave him a great life and we all loved him. And he's no longer employed. He's lost his job because of this. But she said, I think I'm in danger, but I really think your daughter is in harm's way too. But we want you to be aware of this. And then his aunts reached out to me like, I'm his Facebook friend. I think you're in danger. And then I was like, wait, is this him or is this his aunt? Like, you just don't know what's going on with these people.
Right.
But long story, I reached out to the police in his hometown. They're like, there's nothing we can do for you. You're in Arkansas. You're welcome to get a restraining order, but it will probably make things worse. So long story short, to wrap this up in a bow for everyone, he actually threatened to bomb a huge headquarters for a Fortune 500 company on Facebook. And they took him to jail. And he was in jail for a year until he was released and then involved in a 100-mile police chase and wrecked his vehicle. And he's back in jail again. So I keep close tabs on him. I try to, at this point, I think they're going to keep him locked up for a while. But yeah, he's a dangerous person for sure. And it gets worse. There's a lot in there that like people don't know about. I was actually traveling for turkey season. I was a college student I was in person for the first semester, and after that, I went totally online. But I still lived in Jonesboro, where my college was, with my sister in our home that they intended on us to stay in. So turkey season had started, and I started traveling to turkey hunt, and I was posting where I was. And I was in Tennessee with my friend Macy Watkins. I was in Arkansas, but at this point, I was so young to influencing and so naive because I lived in Northeast Arkansas. Like, everyone knew me. Everyone was my friend. Like, no one wanted to hurt me. And, like, most people would never try. So I didn't ever think about the consequences of posting where you are in real time. And this guy posted on Facebook, like, his journal. Like, it was truly his journal. He posted
This is a different guy now, right?
This is the same
guy. You're
guy.
still the same guy. Okay.
Before all this happened, he posted a journey from Nebraska to Jonesboro, and he was a quarter-mile from my house. And Onyx obviously shows all landowners' names on the app, so he knew where I lived. And that night, I didn't see the Facebook post till I got back home. But I was like at a restaurant that I posted about all the time. I sang the highest praise of this restaurant. If you searched my name, like, you could find I posted here all the time. And I was with some friends enjoying our meal. At this point in time, my truck had my name on my license plate. I posted my truck all the time. And I got home, and I says, my iPhone gets a notification. It's like an AirTag has been traveling with you. It's been detected since the restaurant to your house. And I was like, what in the world? And I go to Facebook, and he's posting that he's in Jonesboro, Arkansas. So, yeah. So I Google immediately how to find an AirTag. I couldn't find it anywhere. And I couldn't hear the noise it was making. Like, it was not working. So it said one of the tips for that was to run through a car wash. So I run through a car wash. Air tag is gone. I guess it was in the undercarriage somewhere, but air tag's gone, and
So he was he put the device on your vehicle.
That's what we would assume, since he was in Jonesboro that day. Like he was posting in real time that he was there. So he was posting it literally at a hotel half a mile from my house, and I was just like, what are the odds this happens the same night he's posting that he's here? And so I packed up everything that I needed to turkey hunt in, and I left town and did not return for 3 months. And that was like the start of my turkey tour, because I was scared to be home.
Sure.
So
insanity. Well, we have peace of mind in knowing that he's locked up for right now.
For sure. And I care every day. So, I mean,
yeah. Gosh, again, with all the questions that I have. So your dad never had any reservations. Again, I'm playing dad here.
Sure.
Because I have a dad of a nearly teenage old daughter. And so it was sounds like because you were in the pageantry thing, you couldn't have one without the other. It was kind of part of the deal. It's a package deal. If you're going to do this, then you got to do this, which I get. But your parents, and I guess I'm more curious about your dad, they didn't have any issues or concerns because they were just so convicted in their faith that and comfortable with the upbringing that you had that you were going to be fine.
I guess so. It's funny. Like my dad was.
Do you see why I would be concerned to let my daughter have these social platforms? Yeah.
I'll tell you, my dad was not really active on social media until I really got big on social media, because he wanted to start watching when I was posting.
Yeah.
But he didn't have TikTok in the beginning. He wasn't on Facebook. Like he had to get a Facebook and never used it forever. His Facebook was so inactive for years. And he finally got onto social media. But my dad's a man of few words. Like he really is a man of few words. And if there's anything ever super vulgar posted about me, I'll message someone like, please take this down. Like, not for me, but for the sake of my dad. Like, I see you have daughters in your profile picture, sir. Like, I'm someone's daughter. This is incredibly inappropriate. Yeah. And just don't let my dad and grandpa see this. Like, this is so inappropriate on so many levels. But, like, I also remind myself, nobody I care about would ever post something like that on social media.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to be a special kind of rough. And, like, all you got to do is pray for those people. And my parents taught us that, like, people are going to throw stones at you. It's just how you react that's important. And so, I mean, I've always just tried to pray for these people and thought, man, you've got to be really unhappy with your life. And you've really got to be hurting to try to throw a stone at me,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I definitely need to be praying for you for the rocks that you threw at the beginning of this episode, for sure, about my age. So I'll put you on the list.
All right, go ahead. Please do.
Did you have any, okay, I don't want to miss out on getting the answer of, what kind of like job or side hustle or side gigs that you've got, or you're just self-dependent on the social media influencer income. But I'm curious if you reached out to any other influencers to help you be a mentor for you as you were trying to get into this space.
Well, to answer that, I'll tell you, whenever I was in college, I was doing all kinds of odd jobs trying to make a dime so I could afford to hunt. I mean, I will say I put my college education on the back burner. Like my priority was hunting, and I would do my homework at 11:59 across the country somewhere. Whatever was in seat, wherever I could duck hunt, I would be there. And I would do my homework in, the Walmart parking lot, the McDonald's parking lot, wherever I could get some free Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, like my friend and I, we painted some garages, painted some houses. We were not painters, and that showed. I mean, you got what you paid for. We were cheap labor, but we were painting houses on the side, which is so funny looking back now. But I remember I saved up all my money and bought a decent DSLR camera. Like it was not top with a line. I think I bought a used one at first, even. Bought a cheap lens, decent camera, and I learned how to use it. I actually took a photography class in college, and I had an awesome professor that helped me a lot. And I realized, I was like, okay, this is a funny story. I started telling outfits around, because I did not get to hunt private. Like my dad was not in a duck club. We did not own land, so I had to hunt a lot of public. That's where I learned everything I know about hunting. But whenever I was in college, I was an hour away from our favorite public spots. So I was like, man, wait, there's some really good duck hunting close to college. So I started messaging outfits. I was like, hey, I'll run a camera for you. I'll give you, as many pictures as you want of the hunt, of your clients, of you, of whatever you want, if you let me and my friend come hunt for free. And I did that for a while. And then finally I was like, hey, will you pay me to run a camera and kind of bring a gun? And that started becoming a little bit of a side hustle. And then I got, my pictures were actually pretty good. Like I started getting better, and I had some people ask me, Maggie, would you take pictures of, I'm going to propose to my girlfriend. Would you take pictures of our proposal? And I did that for a friend as a favor. And then it kind of kept escalating. Well, hey, we know a kid. Will you take these kids' pictures? And so I did a little bit. I don't do this anymore. I thought about it, but I did a little bit of photography on the side, and that definitely helped me subsidize
your passion.
My passion, for sure.
So do you have a side hustle now, or is all of your income just through your influencing?
I'm fully influencing now, but I will say that I'm still lucky. I still have the duck camp back home. I mean, I still am not paying rent right now. So I mean, I have help. I'm not going to say that I'm like 100% self-sufficient. No, I do live rent free, which is a huge blessing. But other than that, I would say I'm completely funded by social media.
That's incredible. And mentors, did you have any influencer mentors in this process to kind of help you, or get, if you had a question on how to do this or how to get monetized with this, or how to, like, who were your mentors in the digital space?
I'll tell you this. I met Macy Watkins. I guess it was 2022. Macy was from Georgia. I followed her online for years. I just thought she was funny, and she's the coolest girl, but she also enjoys hunting. And she was actually hunting in Arkansas with an outfit that I've had permission to hunt on for years. This is like one of the only private places I had permission to hunt on, because I could blow a duck call. And so he was like, hey, if you come call with my clients, well, obviously help pick up decoys, put out, like if you do a little bit of work, you can hunt for free. And I was like, say less. I love it here. So that was such a treat to have, someone look out for me and let me do that. But he had Macy in camp. And he called me. He's like, hey, girl, we've got a girl up here hunting, but I don't think she wants to sit in a ground blind, and she doesn't want to, bow hunt with one of the guys. And I get that completely, because I know the guys. They're all great fellas. I'm just giving a hard time. He's like, do you come sit in a ground blind and just hang out with her? And I was like, absolutely, say less. And we got to duck hunt a few afternoons, but I deer hunted with her for a couple days, and I really got to know her. And she actually had a background in influencer marketing. She was working for companies in the outdoor industry, on the marketing side of things, on the corporate side of things with influencers. So she had a really cool perspective, because she was leaning into she was trying to establish herself as an influencer, but also had the behind the scenes experience on the other side of it. And we just became the best of friends on those few days together. We started traveling together, hunting together. And I have really leaned on her for a lot of information, advice. I texted her last night for advice. I was like, hey, does this company pay you XYZ? Because I don't know if I want to work with them. Just things like that, which things I would never, ask anyone else.
Yeah. That's
the best friend courtesy. I'm always like, let me ask my team. Let me consult my team. No, I'm literally consulting Macy. Like I get a lot of advice from her. But I will say, I also have a marketing background. My college degree was in strategic communications with an emphasis in social media marketing. So I have a little bit of an idea of what I'm doing, but honestly, I am learning on the fly.
Wow. Incredible. That is so cool. And I'm just so proud of you with the success that you've had, which then leads me to the next question. One of the things that guys, how do I say this?
Oh, no.
You've heard it all. You've heard it all. So like, I just need to come with it, but like that women in the outdoor, women who are on Instagram and who become Insta famous because of the outdoors have rubbed some men the wrong way, because they don't come across sometimes as, and I'm not trying to throw shade at all of them. Okay.
You can say it. I understand.
You get it. Like they don't come across as authentic or legit. What was that like? Because I'm sure there's some hate that you get, because there was all of this, these people that were out there and they're getting all of these followers, and it appears that they're living this grand, crazy, luxurious lifestyle just because they're a pretty girl who's wearing camo, but they don't really know what they're doing. You obviously are not in that mold, and that's why we're talking and we're friends, because I just don't resonate with people who aren't authentic, and you are. And so that's why I feel like I got a new friend with you. But there had to have been the people that doubted that about you. Have you come across a lot of hate with people that have called you phony or insta famous because of their, see where I'm going with that question?
I will say, like, in the beginning, some people definitely felt really strongly against it. But as social media has grown, I feel like everyone is trying to do what I'm doing. Everyone's trying to be an influencer. So in the beginning, like, there was definitely a little bit of backlash, but I did everything. I'm not gonna say I'm perfect by any means, but I try to do everything very truthfully. And if there was anyone that had anything to say, I'm like, all right, come duck hunt with us then. Like, fine. Like, I'll be there 10 minutes early. I'll probably be there with breakfast and coffee for everyone. And I'll, work harder than you putting out decoys. I'll be prepared. You need an extra headlamp? Yeah, I've got one, bud. Like, next time, be more prepared.
Yeah.
I run a really good dog. Just being educated and knowing that, like, knowing my stuff. I mean, that's really all it came down to. I'm like, if you have a problem with me, come hunt with me. And if you still have a problem with me, you don't have a problem with me, you have a problem with you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the truth. And that's the way I always felt. But like, there were some guys that would, talk some smack and like, also it's hunting. So everyone's always jabbing everybody. Like, you can't act like everyone's, jumping down your throat, because that's the name of the game. Like, I will roast anyone out there harder than they'll roast me. So I mean, it's all playful. Some of it's in good fun, some of it's malicious, but you have to obviously take everything with a grain of salt. But I'll never forget, there were some guys that we got invited to go on a teal hunt. Me and a good friend of mine did, and we were running a camera. And I was just super excited to be there. And the guys were like, man, you didn't tell us the girls were going to be here. And like, I've been a part of a bunch of that, and that's whatever. But I was the only one there that had waiters that day. The only one that brought their waiters. Why? Hard to say, but we were hunting catfish ponds. So I was picking up everything by myself, putting up everything by myself. I mean, it's like, hey guys, are we brushed in all the way? Like, I feel like we're not even, hiding. And whenever you are comfortable and aware of what's going on, there's just, what can you say? What can you say? I mean, there's nothing you can say to me that you couldn't say next to the guy next to me, and obviously running a call and being able to do so proficiently. I mean, there's just, I sincerely do not know what anyone could say to me that would bother me at this point in time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you the best, and you have confidence in who you are and what you're doing. And that's really all that matters. And there's, as we're having this conversation, and I'm thinking about what it was like growing up as a teen boy and now having a nearly teenage girl. And, sometimes it's the girls who can be more malicious than the actual guys. And so that made me think, as you were talking, that you've actually probably gotten more support than we probably give you credit for, just as an outside perspective. But were there other women who were influencers that were jealous or was there any of that I didn't think of initially?
I mean, if you're ever doing good, there's always going to be someone that's jealous of you. But I mean, nothing that I could ever, like, nothing to truly bother me. I mean, I'll be in a trade show and I'll be like, oh, XYZ can't stand you. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. I'll pray for her, but like, nothing of any substance, like nothing that is the adult real reason to dislike me. Like, there's truly, because everyone knows that, like, I live in the Maggie Williams bubble. My friend Lacey will tell you that. Clay tells you that. Like, I keep to myself. People ask me, do you know all these people in the industry? I really do not. Like, unless you're a brand that I work for. I mean, like, I am one of the first people to leave any event. I will Irish goodbye. I go home. Like, I don't leave the house. I'm either hunting or I'm at home with my dog.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just try to stay away from that and lead an authentic life. And if there's anyone that has a problem with me, then it's just like, man, I hope you work that out on your own. And I'll be praying for you in the meantime, because there's no reason for me to have enemies. Like, so if there's any women that dislike me, I hate to hear that. And I hope one day we can share a hunt and become friends.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not trying to, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not trying to assume, I guess, that there was that going on. I'm just really curious about what it's like. I guess in the sense I am kind of an influencer, but it's not in the same, I'm wanting to just kind of get into your shoes of what it's like to be a woman who is an outdoors influencer, because perception isn't always reality. And you just, sometimes you you kind of imagine, well, man, I wonder what this is like and that is like, and what kind of feedback that she's be getting. And because you hear all this rumbling over here sometimes of these guys that are talking crap that are, well, that she's only got that many followers because she's pretty and she wears camo or all this stuff, so I'm just trying to get a better vibe of that world that you live in, all the good with the bad. And it just sounds to me like you've got the grace of God and the confidence of the Lord, and you are just very comfortable with who you are and the skin that you're in, and anything else outside of that is just noise and you don't give it too much attention. So kudos to you for kind of having that frame of mind.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Like, the truth is, like, for as much, it's hard to focus on the people that don't like you whenever you've got over 1 million people that cheer you on. And like, you can't focus on the negative whenever you've got an awesome community of people that support you and support your mission and support what you do. Like, if you look for reasons to be unhappy, you always will find them. But if you look for reasons to be grateful, you will also always find them.
Yeah.
And I just know that I'm so blessed. I have such an awesome opportunity. Sure, there might be someone that's jealous or a naysayer or, just a hateful person that you may come across, but that's in any field. That's in any field of life. So I want to enjoy the opportunities and not let them pass me by. Because my dad told me one time, he's like, my dad worked for a living all my life. My dad worked 80 hours a week, 90 hours a week sometimes when I was a kid, just hauling dirt. I mean, he would work all day, all night, just trying to provide for our family. And hunting was such a luxury for him to do. That was the only hobby he had that he enjoyed, and that we got to share that together. And so I know that what I do is such a privilege. Like, I would never sit and dwell on, I heard someone doesn't like me or someone posted something ugly on the internet. Like, no, I'm going across the country. I'm going to have so much fun, and I'm going to bring my friends and my dog, and we're going to make memories. And in the meantime, I get to go to these awesome trade shows and, hug little girls, which is so crazy because whenever I was a kid, we didn't see little girls hunting. Like, there was not a single piece of duck hunting clothing for little girls. Not that it has to be. We want good children's clothes, and that was hard to find. And I'll never forget, like, my dad did not see another woman on this WMA until he brought me. We went 10 years hunting there together without seeing other women there. And now you see a couple girls in the parking lot. You see girls, and whenever I travel around, I see girls in boat ramp parking lots, and I'm like, respect, sister. And so whenever you see those things, you can say, well, I don't know if necessarily I made a difference, but I know that I'm fighting for the right cause. And I just want to see more of that. And, having little girls bring you drawings of mallards and give you a big hug, like, that fills you up so much that it's hard to even acknowledge any of the negative, because that is truly such a fulfilling experience.
I was going to ask you about that. And, I could sit here and talk to you for 3 hours. Unfortunately, I've only got about 15 to 20 minutes left, but I want to get to that because, like I mentioned, we met at the Heartland premiere, and then we got to get to know each other a little bit better when we came onto your podcast. And then we got to spend a little bit of time together when we were in Memphis at the Ducks Expo. And it was I had heard about this and maybe seen a little bit of it on your social media, but I didn't know to the magnitude of how big of an influence you are, not only to the outdoor space, but to little girls, and how many little girls follow you and they look up to you. Like, girls look up to Taylor Swift. Just as an example, say what you want about Taylor Swift. I don't care. I'm just using it as an example, but like, there's so many little girls at the Ducks Expo that are coming up to you and giving you hugs and wanting a picture and wanting your autograph, and they're giving you gifts. And wow, what a cool thing. And it also reminded me of how we had that conversation outside of the Dirty Duck booth, because we were talking about our podcast, and I was giving you the podcast we did with you. And I was giving you a hard time because you had edited some things, and you're like, well, you guys are, talking like sailors on my podcast, and I've got little girls listening. I was like, what are you talking about? This is the outdoor space. Like, and then it was like being at the expo really was like, I get it now. Now I get it. And so I want to lift you up and just be like, that is really, really cool that it's not all about the lights and the glam and all the notoriety that comes with being a established influencer in the outdoor space. You really care about giving back and those little girls that follow you and look up to you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. That means a lot to me. And it's having the opportunity to impact a little girl's life is so valuable to me. And I tell people the story all the time. Whenever I was 13, my I think it was my keyboarding teacher in school, told me, hey, I want the whole class to write a letter to who they want to be when they grow up.
Mm.
And I wrote a letter to Eva Shockey. And Eva Shockey has maybe been duck hunting like 2 or 3 times. She's not a duck hunter. But at that point, there were no women that were known for duck hunting, like on a mainstream platform that, were influencing. And so I was like, I want to be Eva Shockey one day. I think she's so beautiful and she's so cool. And I loved how she was a ballerina, but she also is a big game hunter. And I just thought she was the coolest thing on God's green earth. And I wrote her a letter. And Ronnie, out of the 18 kids in that classroom, I was the only one that got a letter back. And I got a $50 Cabela's gift card and a signed autograph card from Eva Shockey. And I can still tell you where that autograph card, and I kept the gift card. I can tell you where both of them are today.
Did you spend it?
I think I spent it, but I asked for the card back. I went back.
But surely for as long, I mean, you're 23, but for the last 5 years or so that you've been playing in the space, I'm guessing you've had the chance to meet her in person and tell her that story, and she can connect the story to that moment.
So what's funny is, Eva, actually, I've not met her in person. I have had her on my podcast virtually, like we're doing, but I actually posted on TikTok, and I think she had just maybe gotten onto TikTok. Like, TikTok's not one of her biggest platforms, but it was one of mine. And I had posted, it was like, it was Hank Williams Jr. Dinosaur. If anyone knows me, they know I love good old country music. It was a picture. It said Eva Shockey was the second woman on the cover of Field and Stream. And then I posted a picture of me, and I was the first woman on the cover of Greenhead Magazine, which is the Arkansas duck hunting magazine. And then I posted a picture after that, and like it was a video, a slideshow, and it was Eva's autograph card to me. And it was like, I think it was Chase Your Dreams or something really sweet that she had wrote on there. But I posted that story, and it was like, it's so crazy. I wrote her a letter. She wrote me back. And this is the path I followed, because that's the power of a good role model. And I posted that, and it went really viral. Like, it got a couple million views at the time. And Eva's team saw it, and I was like, hey, let me get her on my podcast. Please let me get her on my podcast. And I got her on my podcast, and she was as incredible as I thought she would be. And that was a very full circle moment.
We're going to have to figure out a way to make that happen.
I would love to meet her.
We have some indirect, basically a friend of a friend type of connection to the Shockeys.
Okay.
With the Heartland group. So I'll just say it. So like Nate Flynn, who's on Heartland Bow Hunter, his sister is married to Braylon Shockey. Brandlin Shockey.
Really?
Eva's brother.
Yes. Aren't they in KC? I think I did know that her brother was in the KC area.
I don't know that. I don't even know if they're living in this area now. They might be. I'm not real sure on that. But so yeah, Nate's got to hunt with Jim and they're anyway. So I'm not close to them. I'm just saying that I'm close. I know a guy close that is kind of indirectly related to him. Anyway,
let's do a Heartland Waterfowl, Eva Shockey, Maggie Williams crossover episode.
That would be so cool. That would be really cool. Oh, there's so much I want to talk to you about, Maggie, but look, maybe we do a part 2. Maybe we come back and we do this again, because there's so much I want to talk about, but I do have to be a dad and pick up my daughter here in a few minutes from school. So I got to wrap this up. Before we get to the 4 questions, because we do this also kind of like you do with your podcast, and it was some fun questions there at the end. We got to talk about Clay. Okay. Because we said we were going to bring that up. Clay, for you, those who don't know that maybe, Clay was on Heartland Bow Hunter. I don't know, kind of still is. I'm not real sure, but he was the first child that was a personality on Heartland Bow Hunter. We all know him from the time he shot that massive deer when he was just a kid, and he was so excited and he cried his eyes out. Clay Craft. And so the Craft family is obviously so close to all of us in the Heartland brands, be it Heartland Bow Hunter or Heartland Waterfowl. And so what has helped us as Heartland Waterfowl get to know Maggie on a more personal level is through the relationship that we had with Clay. And so how did that come about? You said that Clay messaged you like 4 years ago, or at least he jokes about that. Was he trying to pursue you through social media? Like, and how did the paths actually cross? Is he there?
Kill me.
Is he there?
Walking around.
Hey,
Clay. Come here.
He may not want to do this.
I'll tell the story if he don't.
Okay.
So, long story short, Clay messaged me on social media 4 years ago. And
You keep looking over there. Is he there?
he's like, there's the stairs. Hey, Clay!
Clay, get on the pod.
We're telling the story of how we met. Okay, so
Get in there behind her and let's. She's going to tell the story, and then you get to
see if it's true.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Clay Craft. Yeah.
like a guest appearance with me. That's funny. So he messaged me on Instagram 4 years ago, and it wasn't like, "Hey, girl, let me take you out." It was like, "How's the turkey hunting going?" He was not
just some random guy you've never heard of, and all his question is how's the turkey hunting going?
That's right. I mean, I respect it. I said I like that. I mean, that's not too forward, just a genuine, nice question.
By the way, can I interrupt real quick to do this?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's probably not going to work. It's going to be out of focus. Anyway, that's me with little Clay at the radio station that I used to work at. Anyway, go ahead. So he's asking about turkey hunting.
So this is a long story short. I didn't see it for 4 years. Like I said, I will not see a message from anybody on Instagram, especially. Like, it's just not going to happen. It's the grace of God if I see a DM. So I didn't see it. And long story short, I actually went turkey hunting with a girl last year in Illinois that I became really good friends with. And her boyfriend was a good friend of Clay's. They'd hunted together some.
Okay.
And she told me, she's like, "Hey, don't kill me." She said, "Hey,
I love you, buddy. I love you. Don't be mad at me."
She said, "I know this guy who is the biggest crush on you. He is a huge fan." And she's like, "Would you call him for me?" And I was like, "Sure." So I called him on someone's phone. And I was like, "Hey, Clay," just like kind of messing around with him, like, because he.
How long ago was this? A couple of years ago, or?
This was like this is in 2024, like May.
Okay, last year.
No, in March.
It was opening day of the 2023.
No, baby, it's 24.
Yeah, 2024
turkey season
in Kansas. So
Kansas.
So we've been April.
It was opening night, or it was the night before, because I had all of my friends over here. We were eating turkey nuggets and doing all that fun stuff. And like my buddy calls me and it's Maggie on the phone, and I was like, "Oh, hold on, I gotta go outside for this." Yeah. So
I talked to him like super briefly on the phone. Like, I was really kind of aggravating him more than anything because I knew he had a crush on me. Yeah. And my friend Nicole was like, "Hey, you should really date this guy." And I was like, "Whatever." Like, no, he's from Kansas City. At that point in time, I did not. No offense to the awesome, wonderful Midwestern gentlemen. Y'all are incredible, and I love the Midwest now that I'm here. But back then, I was like, I'm an Arkansas girl. I want a Southern gentleman. You know, like, that's just culturally what.
Well, he is a transplant. He is a Southern gentleman.
He's from Mississippi.
Yes.
Like, I didn't know that at the time, but she was like, "You need to go out with this guy. You need to go out with this guy." And I was just like, whatever. I blew her off for like 2 months or a month, probably just a month. And her boyfriend posted a picture, and it was of him and his friend and a turkey. And I was scrolling on Instagram, and I'm like, "Wait, who did Dalton just post a picture with?" And I was like, "That's the cutest guy I've ever seen."
Oh, wow.
I hope he doesn't have a girlfriend. I look at his profile, and I call her. I'm like, "Hey, who is this guy?" She's like, "That's the Clay that has had a crush on you for years." And I was like, "Oh gosh, that's gonna be my boyfriend."
So Clay, when you sent the message though, and just say, "Hey, how's the turkey hunting?" You didn't care about the turkey hunting.
Heck no. Oh yeah, sorry, we gotta keep this PG. No.
Yeah.
You know, I was just trying to, shooter got a shoot or whatever they say.
Yeah, dude, you're taking your shot, man. You're just taking your shot.
He just said it so respectfully. Like, if it was something provocative back in 2024, if I would have gone back and seen that, whenever I finally followed him, he would have been out. But
there's only one thing bad about Clay.
Oh.
And
it's
I already got it.
It's because he's a Jayhawk. It's the only thing the only thing I don't like about Clay. Other than that, I love everything about him and his family.
Well,
I for the record, if the Jayhawks ever play the Mississippi State Bulldogs, it is Mississippi State Bulldogs all the way.
Okay.
That being said, if that makes you feel a little better.
Well, I'll tell you this: being from Arkansas, a college-educated man is a privilege. I don't care where he went to school. At least he.
There you go. Hey, by the way, Clay, I think Kansas State and Mississippi State are playing a basketball game at the T-Mobile Center. We should go.
We're going.
I think my whole family is going, but we should definitely find a way to hang out and have a beer or something.
Maybe sit like 2 rows above you so I can
throw popcorn at me. All right. Well, listen, let's get to the final 4 here so I can get on the road and go pick up my daughter. These are called the Ducked Up Questions of the Day.
So do I need to leave for this?
So play. You can stay there if you want. You can. The Ducked Up Question of the Day brought to you by Dirty Duck Coffee. If your coffee sucks, it ain't the duck. The preferred coffee of choice in the blind and around the breakfast table for Heartland waterfowl and waterfowl hunters in every flyway. You can save on a variety of blends by using promo code HW10 at dirtyduckcoffee.com. Maggie, if you could go back and relive just one hunt in your life, not for the birds harvested, but for the people, the moment or the lesson, what would that be? And why?
I was dry field hunting for the first time in the Dakotas with my dad. And my dad is a true blue Arkansas boy. And so for him getting to see ducks, for him getting to see ducks like in a dry field, that was the most astonishing thing for him ever. But I also had my retriever Kate with me, and she had a lights out hunt. It was just on fire. Did so well. But I just remember my dad, and also I was shooting phenomenally. Like, I did not miss. And so my dad seeing, and we were also on a brand trip. We were there with Prina Pro Plan. So for my dad to get to witness that, and the people at Pro Plan are incredible. So it was just I was with coworkers that felt like friends. I was with my father and my dog, and I could just see the pride on my dad's face. Like, I will never forget that, and I would love to live that again.
You need to tell Carl over there at Purina to give Heartland Waterfowl another look.
I will. I love Carl.
I have been trying to infiltrate that sucker, and he's just a tough cookie to crumble sometimes.
Carl's
anyway, hey, shout out Carl. We're still here, and I'm still thinking about you, pal. Next question. Hunting teaches patience, failure, and resilience. What's one lesson from the outdoors that you've carried into the rest of your life, maybe even outside of hunting?
Whenever you think you can't keep going, and you'll get there. I mean, I taught myself this really. I mean, duck hunting, I push myself a lot, but I feel like turkey hunting physically, it has pushed me to my limit and then beyond some. I've got to enjoy hunting out west, hunting some really tough mountains. And like, I was a pageant girl. So you have to look back at my background and be like, that girl was soft as butter whenever I was young. And I was like, I didn't understand what it meant to be tough, and pushing myself to where, I'm about to fall down a mountain because my legs are shaking so bad, and keep going to the next ridge over, and then finding that success. That has really molded me as a person. So I'm like, I can do hard things. If I keep going, God will, meet me halfway and help me get to where I need to be.
Well, it's a good thing Clay subscribes to that, or else you guys wouldn't be together, right? He was resilient. He was tough. He never gave up. And look, he won the prize. He got Maggie Williams. In today's world, fewer young people are being introduced to hunting. What do you think it will take to keep hunting or waterfowl hunting traditions alive for the next generation?
I'll tell you, I know it's really hard to take kids hunting. I have been involved on so many youth hunts as a youth and as an adult taking them. But people will say, Maggie, you've made such a big difference in the hunting world. No, my daddy did, because he took me. And that was his guy time. He did not have to take a little girl with him whenever he could be, shooting the stuff with his buddies and having fun and saying jokes and doing boy things, doing man things. But he chose to take me and to include me. And it's going to take, parents that have that same valuable mindset of passing on the legacy of hunting, teaching kids the importance of conservation. And it's going to take a lot of patient parents that are willing to go the extra mile to make it comfortable and enjoyable for kids in a world that's obsessed with screen time.
Yeah. One thing I love about I've already premeditated this. So, and I'm sure that you'll take me up on it, but because I keep referencing my 12-year-old daughter who I love, and she's my pride and joy, and along with my other 2 sons, but, she's ate up with hunting. She shot her first turkey this year. And now I've got this friend, Maggie Williams, who is into duck hunting, like my daughter's daddy, you see, like I am. And man, how great would it be if I could say, Reagan, you get to go hunting with Maggie Williams, and then she could watch you and get that inspiration from you. So I'm going to try to push for that one day, since you've already offered me to go shoot Clay's hole as long as he floods it.
That's right. As long as he floods
it will be flooded, but I'll take a second here just to kind of brag on her a little bit. So this year I've been able to kind of go to these shows where there's, I didn't go to Delta. I went to DU, but NWTF, and just kind of like see how many young girls get to come up to her you know, it kind of pulls on the heartstrings a little bit because you're like, oh my gosh, like that girl is 4 years old, but here she is in pigtails and head to toe and bottom land and knows who Maggie is. And it's like, holy cow. Like it's just cool to see like somebody actually is out there making a difference because, you know, whether if you don't have a dad or an uncle or somebody that is, you know, teaching you on how to hunt, you know, if anybody's listening to this, go just pick a kid. I mean, like, just be a mentor to that person because you never know what they're going through. And like hunting, it changes so many people's lives. And, you know,
you've taken several kids.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy, you know, whether it's turkey hunting or, I mean, some of my buddies in high school would be like, man, that stuff looks really cool. Like, I want to try it. And then you take them out there and they fall in love with it. And now they're inviting you over to their house to shoot your bow with them. And, you know, hey, well, you know, what do you think about this property I got permission to? And to me, that's what it's all about is, you know, the camaraderie of it and passing it on and getting more people involved and just making the world a better place. But it's really cool.
Before we get to our final question, and this is on the same lines with what you're talking about, we just got partnered with Old Timer Knives as our knife sponsor for this new season. And, you know, it took me, but I was having conversations. We were going back and forth and just talking about the Built for Generations slogan that they have. And my first knife that was given to me by my grandfather, who'd introduced me to the outdoors, you know, gave me my first knife, which was an Old Timer knife. And where I was going with that is that sometimes you can get a kid excited about the outdoors. You don't have to give them a gun. You don't have to buy them camo. Just give them a pocket knife. Just give them a pocket knife. They can go outside and they can whittle a stick, or just think about the first time that's how I was introduced as a young child to the outdoors, was something as simple as a Old Timer pocket knife. And you would be surprised how much fun a kid can have. Hopefully they're being safe, but how much fun that they can have with a pocket knife by just being outside with it. Anyway, last question. Let's say you're stuck in the duck blind for 24 hours with only one snack, one hunting buddy, and one playlist. What are you picking?
I'm going to have beef jerky on me because whenever I don't have protein, I get tired.
Okay. Protein. You got one hunting buddy.
It'd be Clay. It'd be Clay.
Well, if he wasn't in the frame, is it still Clay?
It's still Clay, but
okay.
Like Kate needs to be there too. My dog needs to be there.
Fair enough. So you got one snack, you got one hunting buddy, you got one playlist.
It's me on the auxiliary cord, first of all. And I would be like straight 90s country heat.
Okay.
And I would be fine. Like, truly, as long as he had enough beef jerky for the both of us, as long as I'm not hangry, I'd be a great sport.
All right. I'm gonna make this a little bit more difficult. You can't just go to Spotify and pick a 90s country list. You got to pick one artist.
One artist, period?
Yeah. Come on.
Randy Travis.
Really?
Yeah, I would.
I mean, he's iconic artist, but I guess I'm surprised that I was thinking maybe you would say Clint Black.
I love Clint Black. It could be Clint Black.
That's probably who I'd pick.
Country music, and I just want to know all the words to every song so I can just sing them at the top of my lungs and get on his nerves. Like that would be good.
She listens to country music, but she also throws a little bit of Young Dolphin there every once in a while. Let's be honest.
That's like an Arkansas thing.
Okay.
Now that I have like gotten into Kansas some, I don't do that as much. But like the rap music at the boat ramp on the way to the duck hole, that used to be a big cultural thing in Arkansas. But
really,
yeah, but also like fighting at boat ramps is a big cultural thing in Arkansas too. So I mean, you got to
pick your poison.
Yeah.
And then on the snacks, like, don't let her fool you. We usually have beef jerky, but this girl will eat a 6-pack of the Uncrustables if you'll let her. Like,
oh, well, she just talked about living on peanut butter and jelly earlier in this episode.
Oh man, the very first time we ever like hunted, and it was cold outside. So like we were up here hunting in Kansas at the flooded hole, and she pulls out this Uncrustable. I'm like, all right, like that actually sounds pretty good right now. And it was just like perfectly like still frozen a little bit, crunchiness to it.
So good.
And I was like, dang, you might be onto something here. Like this is good.
Have you ever had the zebra cakes? You know what the Little Debbie? Are they Little Debbie's or Hostess? I don't know which brand makes them, but the zebra cakes. There's a trick there what some people don't know about is that they taste even better if you put them in the freezer. what you were talking about, which is the same concept that you're talking about with the Uncrustable. Yeah. All right, guys, I'm up against it. I got to go. Thank you so much. We're going to have to do this again. I could talk to you for so long. Clay, special appearance here on the Behind the Blind podcast with Maggie Williams. Look, it's been such a joy to get to know you. I look forward to getting to know you better and even hunting with you guys. Hopefully once or twice, or maybe who knows. I'd love for you to meet my daughter. I think she would just have a ball getting to know you and seeing you in action. So let's definitely stay in touch. And thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of your time to come on the Behind the Blind podcast.
Thank you for thinking of me, Ronnie. I look forward to hanging out with your daughter and hunting with her and hunting with you. And we've got a lot of exciting things to look forward to this winter.
That's right. I look forward to that too. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget a brand new season of Heartland Waterfowl on the Heartland Waterfowl YouTube channel. Subscribe, comment, do all the things because it helps us. And we would love for you to check out our new season. It's coming very, very soon. The guys are headed to North Dakota for early season Canada geese with Behind the Blind podcast episodes dropping on Spotify, all your favorite podcast platforms, and the Heartland Waterfowl YouTube channel. So for Clay and Maggie, I'm Ronnie Phillips. Thanks for watching Behind the Blind.
Bye.
I hit end recording. Is it in recording?
It's still recording.
In recording. There we go.